Good morning, Wilson. I see you prepared this beautiful 5-star breakfast for me, but I'm running late, so I'll just take this slice of toast and leave. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. What a stressful day at work, Wilson. Well, now it's time to sit back and watch a very sophisticated and intellectual film. Vampire's Kiss. This sounds interesting.
Am I getting through to you? Over! You're A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Well, that was an experience. Well, I think it's about time I went to sleep. Well, perhaps one more wouldn't hurt anything.
Okay, let's wrap. No. What are these fucking iguanas doing on my coffee table?
I'm like a prickly pear.
What time is it? When did I buy 2 dinosaur skeletons? Crap, I'm late. Listen, I didn't sleep very well last night. Can't stay for breakfast. I'm running super late. I'll just take a slice of toast and leave. Math, mathity, math. AC. Yes. It appears that you have misspelled the word stocks in your report. What do you mean? How could somebody misspell something? Nothing could be easier. There's only 26 letters in the alphabet. You know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Huh? I've never misspelled anything. I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
What is it? What's wrong, sister?
Oh, no, not the bees!
Not the beast! Ah!
Is that the Declaration of Independence? When did I... Why is there yogurt on my feet? Wilson, something weird is happening. Wilson, where's the breakfast? What do you mean you didn't make any because I never stay to eat it and you hate cooking? Oh, you want some help cooking the breakfast? Wilson, there is nobody here that I would ask to do such a horrible, horrible job. You're on the bottom of the pyramid here, Wilson. That's right. It's a horrible, horrible job. And you have to do it. Do you understand me? Now go and make me some breakfast. That's it, Wilson? Just this one piece of toast? A broken piece of toast that's burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? This is unacceptable. Start over. Oh, is it done? Well, guess what, Wilson? It's 10:01. It's too late for breakfast. Too late, too late, too late! Darn it. I gotta get back to work. Thank you. Hey everyone, let's see here. And recently, something strange has been happening to me. Ever since I watched this movie called Vampire's Kiss, I've been going through this transformation, and I think I'm turning into Nicolas Cage.
But first, a little background. Vampire's Kiss was written by Joseph Minion and directed by Robert Bierman, and is about a white-collar New Yorker named Peter Lowe who begins to go insane, which causes him to torment his secretary named Alva. And when one of the women he sleeps with bites him in bed, he becomes convinced that he is turning into a vampire, and then all kinds of insanity follows. The film released in 1989,
And it bombed horribly.
It also probably didn't help that it came out the same month as Batman. Which would you rather see? This or this. In fact, it bombed so hard that the producer, Barbara Zitwer, I probably horribly mispronounced that, never made another movie again. And the director, Robert Bierman, moved to the UK, where the movie was better received, and started directing television. And the writer, Joseph Minion, wrote and directed one more movie called Trafficking, but he never found a distributor for it. But a rough cut of it exists on Vimeo, but the quality and editing is poor. The only person attached to this movie that didn't have their career ruined was Nicolas Cage. Insert obvious you don't say meme here.
Well, let's find out if it's really all that bad. This is Vampire's Kiss.
So the movie begins with Cage at his therapist's office. And I know his character's name is Peter Lowe, but I'm just going to call him Nicolas Cage. Anyway, so he talks about how he regrets telling this girl to go for about a minute, and then the movie cuts to later that night, where Cage is taking this girl, whose ribs are way too visible, home, and they walk past this kid, who I'm going to talk about later. And then they bang. And after they do that, this obviously fake bat flies through the window. Fun fact, Nicolas Cage actually tried to get a real bat shipped in from Mexico for the scene, but sadly he couldn't. I actually like the fake bat, though, because it makes it feel more like an old monster movie. Anyway, the girl runs out of the apartment naked, and then the little kid sees and his mom pulls him away. But looking at the timeline here, either that kid was standing there for like an hour, or they were only banging for like 3 minutes. And either way, why was he standing there that long? Also, I don't think that first scene with the kid was in the script, and they just threw it in there in editing, because he had no reason to be looking at them like that yet. And before it cuts, you can see his mom's arm begin to grab him. So I think this was just another take of the later scene that they just threw in during the editing process. Beautiful acting there, Cage. You nailed it. It then cuts to the next day, where Cage is now at work, and he asks his secretary, Alva, to find a missing contract for him. And this is where one of the biggest complaints comes in. The accent.
Now, the story was sold in 1963, and I know that's a long time before either I was here or you were here.
Now, I don't think it's that bad, but I see why people don't like it. But to defend it, I will quote the director. We chose this because if you did the role totally straight, the character is so hateful that it would be unwatchable. Which I completely agree with. It also gives the character a hint of pretentiousness. Anyway, back to the story. Then he goes back home to look at the window where the bat came from, and then the film abruptly cuts to him with his therapist. Also, I'm going to come back to that scene with him at the house later. While he's at his therapist's office, he tells her about the bat incident, and how fighting the bat, I'll let him explain it.
And suddenly this bat comes swooping down out of nowhere.
A bat?
Holy shit. But this really happened, but this part, I don't know if this really happened, or I dreamt it later, or what. I mean, I'm fighting this bat off all alone, and I'll be damned if I didn't get really turned on.
And then she makes some weird faces, and it cuts right back to the office, where he yells at Alva some more, and then right back to the club.
Save the same amount I put in the other account. Now say I put $2,000 in the IRA. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to save $2,000 at income tax time. It's more like $700, right, Peter? Yeah, plus I get interest on the $2,000 in the other account. Who would be interested?
I'm just gonna move past that.
So while he's there, he meets this new girl named Rachel, and takes her home, and they bang.
Fun fact about the sex scenes with this character. Apparently, to get turned on, Cage asked for hot yogurt to be poured on his feet. Another fun fact is that another actress was cast to play Rachel, but her boyfriend forced her to drop out because she threatened to break up with her if she had sex with Cage on screen.
Anyway, while they're doing the monster mash, Rachel shows off her vampire fangs, and then bites him. The next morning, Cage is shaving and he cuts himself. And then he prepares tea for his imaginary girlfriend that he has now.
That came out of nowhere!
Though I do like how they make you think he is talking to someone before showing that there's nobody there. It's a cool scene and all, but there's just no build up to it. Like, could you not have, set that up at all? Like maybe that one scene where he goes home to look at the window that lasted like 2 seconds. How about, after he looks at the window, have him lay down on his empty bed and then hold on that shot for a bit, then have him roll over and start talking to his imaginary girlfriend? Or, maybe before he gets up to shave, have him look at the empty spot in the bed for a little bit. Or if you want to keep it a surprise, move this to after the scene with the bat, which will make you think he's talking to the girl he was with before.
Wouldn't that have worked so much better, instead of just having him start talking to nobody for no reason?
So the next scene, he is on a date at the art museum with that one girl from the beginning of the movie. Her name is Jackie, by the way. And he decides he does not want to commit, so he just leaves. She is verbally upset.
Don't you ever call me again, you fuck!
You fuck?
The next day, he is back at his therapist, where she is oddly excited about the bat thing.
Well, Peter, why don't we begin where we left off last week? You started to tell me about this strange feeling you had when this bat flew through the window of your apartment.
But Cage doesn't seem to remember.
Huh?
And she looks very disappointed about it. We cut back to his work, where he begins to torment Alva because she can't find the contract. Then the person he's finding the contract for calls him to tell him he doesn't want it anymore. But Cage lies and tells Alva that she needs to find the contract in a week, bringing us to our very first Cage moment.
Mr. Heatherton is boiling mad. And he has implied that if he doesn't get that copy within the week, he will terminate his agreement with our agency and sign up with a more efficient one. Am I getting through to you, Alva?
In fact, to keep track of all the Cage moments in this movie, I'm proud to show off the official Cage moment counter. You may think it's pointless, but since I've announced it, we've already sold out.
Am I getting through to you, Alva?
I'll go right to it, Mr. Lowe.
So next he goes to this diner and yells at the waiter, and then he overhears these women talking, and he gets upset about it.
Fucking greaser!
On his way out of the diner, the first part of his transformation occurs when his shave cut begins to hurt. We then see some mimed domestic abuse, as Cage calls that one girl back to ask for forgiveness and for one more chance. So then he leaves the apartment, only to go right back to it to prepare for his date. But Rachel has some objections.
He is wondering, how did she get in here? And he is realizing that he let her in, as she is his lover, his most passionate mistress. And he is realizing that she is a jealous mistress.
So then they do it again. The next morning, Cage gives us our next two Cage moments, as he yells for Alva.
Alva! 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 Alva!
And then he jumps onto her desk
There you are!
and chases her into the bathroom. But old lady to the rescue.
What the hell is he doing in here?
I have a gun. If you hurt me, I'm gonna use it.
What the fuck is going on?
I don't know, I mean...
Later that day, he goes home and he sees that that one girl has sent him a message. And I think he takes it pretty well. The next day at his therapist's office, he tells her about the missing contract, and when she suggests that it may have been misfiled, Cage demonstrates his vast knowledge of the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Peter.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P,
Peter.
Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z! Huh? That's all you have to do!
His therapist is visibly scared. The next day at work, he yells at Alva some more, and then creates the most infamous Cage moment next to Not the Bees.
Alva, there is no one else in this entire office that I could possibly ask to share such a horrible job. You're the lowest on the totem pole here, Alva. The lowest. Do you realize that? Every other secretary who's been here has been here longer than you, Alva. Every one. And even if there was someone here who was here just one day longer than you, I still wouldn't ask that person to partake in such a miserable job as long as you were around. That's right, Alva. It's a horrible, horrible job, sifting through old contract after old contract. I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to. And you have to do it. You have to, or I'll fire you. Do you understand? Do you?
Yes, this movie is in fact the origin of the "you don't say" face. And for creating meme gold, it gets 5 points. You don't say. Later that night, he gets scared by a cross and then gives the guy free groceries. And then he and Rachel have a movie night to watch Nosferatu, because she understands that this movie has no budget and can't afford to use footage from a newer movie. The next morning, Cage makes a funny face at a mirror, then eats a well-balanced breakfast. Then later at work, he learns that Alva has called in sick, so he goes to her house to get arrested for harassment. And man, this movie makes you feel bad for Alva. He's being so horrible to her, and her family keeps dogging on her because she needs this job and stuff. So she gets in the cab with him, and he nicely persuades her to get back to work.
That goddamn contract is somewhere in those goddamn fucking files!
Are you alright, Mr. Lowe?
Shut up, bitch.
On the way, she visits her brother and asks him for some bullets for her gun, and he says no, and gives her blanks to scare off people who want to attack her. A foolproof plan. There's definitely not going to be a situation where a suicidal vampire man is attacking her.
Oh, no. But what about the robbery? I mean, when those pigs came here to rob...
Ah, yes. I too remember what happened that fateful day.
Hold on to your lug nuts. It's time for an overhaul.
That's my baby. Your wife.
15 years keeps me going. There is work and there is laugh. Am I right? You a married man?
How is that taxi driver not uncomfortable talking to him? I would have been like, get out of my taxi right now. So then Cage and Alva go back to the office. Then Cage uses the bathroom and pretends that he doesn't have a reflection in the mirror, while also pretending to be Jim Carrey.
Oh God, where am I?
But the bathroom acting critic is not impressed.
You're in the goddamn crapper hole, and I'm trying to take a dump, so either shut up and leave the goddamn acting lessons for home or go back to the ladies' room.
Later that night, Alva finally finds the contract, but Cage is not happy since she interrupted his conversation with the taxi driver about love. And he takes it a little hard.
It's too late!
Too late! Too late! Too late! It's too late, Albert! It's all too late, Albert!
Oh, and what do you know? Since he wants to die now, the blanks aren't going to scare him away. So then he... So, after that, he picks up the gun and tries to kill himself with it since he doesn't know that it's filled with blanks. Okay, first off, if you were to shoot blanks into your mouth, you would not be fine. Best case scenario, your mouth would be fried. Worst case, you'd be dead. So, since the blanks didn't kill him, he now believes that he is a vampire. And if he's not a vampire, he's definitely fireproof. Hey, wait a minute. So then Cage makes a funny noise. And then...
I'm a vampire! 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 I'm a vampire!
It's beautiful. It's one of the best scenes in cinema history. You know what? It's so good that it gets 6 points. One for every time he says it.
I'm a vampire! 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 I'm a vampire!
So after Cage finishes redefining cinema, he goes home and does this for some reason. And he puts the finishing touches on his man cave by making his own DIY coffin. But soon, Cage realizes that he doesn't have any vampire fangs, so he goes to buy some at the Vampire Fang store.
Wait, what store only sells vampire fangs? And it clearly can't be a seasonal thing since it's clearly not Halloween in the movie.
Anyway, Cage only has enough money for some cheap plastic fangs.
Haha! Poor!
So I don't need to explain why this is hilarious, but I will. The music makes the scene. It sounds right out of the classic monster movies. But instead of a scary monster, it's just a man wearing plastic vampire fangs. Cage then decides to call his therapist and ask to make his next appointment. Oh, and his therapist has got herself a boyfriend. Where's that subplot gonna go?
Absolutely nowhere.
After that, Cage gives in to his vampire needs and eats an entire freaking bird.
I don't remember that part of the vampire lore. Let me check the manual. Yeah, no, it doesn't say that, but I can't wait for the part where Nicolas Cage takes off his shirt.
The next night, Cage, now in his final vampire form, goes back to the nightclub to find someone to feed on. And can you count all of the Cage moments in this scene? And trust me, there was way more, but I couldn't show all of them, or else I would have just shown the entire scene, so I'm just gonna add 3 to the count. Anyway, so he finds this woman sitting alone doing cocaine by herself, and he bites her, but Rachel is not impressed, because she's found a new guy, even though Cage states,
I love you! You can't just walk away! You don't know what you're doing! Damn it! I said I love you!
But Cage is not ready to accept this, so he goes to confront her. The real her, that is. Yeah, if you haven't figured it out, he was hallucinating her ever since the first night where she bit him, and this one he's yelling at here is the real Rachel, who doesn't take well to him calling her a vampire.
You see her teeth? Shut up! You see her teeth? Shut up! She's a goddamn vampire!
So Cage gets kicked out of the club and scared away by a cross. And it seems like this might be the end for Cage as the sun comes out.
No! Oh, the sun! Christ! This is the end! I can't take it anymore! Go ahead! Kill me!
So now, after being rejected by his imaginary vampire girlfriend, Cage now wishes for death. But for some reason, the bystanders don't want to help the poor guy.
Take it out and put the cross up to me like this.
I'm not speaking English.
The cross, the crucifix, me vampire! Vampire, you idiot Nosferatu! Christ! The tortures of the damned!
Another fun fact, the reactions you're seeing on screen are actually 100% real. Since the movie couldn't afford extras, they just set the camera up across the street and filmed Cage freaking out at people.
Also, there is several Cage moments in this scene, and I don't feel like showing them all, so I'm just gonna add 5 to the count. Hold on. There's a big problem here. You see it? No? How about now?
How can there be newspapers about the murder already? It's only been like 2 hours.
That means that either, 1, they somehow made the paper in the span of a few hours, which would mean that after Cage left the club, someone found the body, called the cops, Then the photographers and journalists got there to take pictures and interview people. Then they had to write the article, send it out, print all those papers, and then deliver them in maximum like 3 hours. Or, Cage has been on the street for like 2 days. And if that's the case, how has nobody caught him yet? Is it really that hard to find the man covered in blood claiming to be a vampire walking down the street? So then Cage walks into a wall and imagines that he's having a conversation with his therapist. But in reality, he's still talking to a wall. Which could have been some clever symbolism if they did it right. Like the therapist scenes in Joker. Have him tell his therapist about his problems, so then when she doesn't respond, he can feel like he's talking to a wall. But here, it doesn't work because she obviously wants to help him, as demonstrated by the bat conversation earlier. But he doesn't want to open up about his problems, so the symbolism doesn't work as well. But I guess you could interpret it as the character that Cage plays is so selfish that he is blaming her for him not getting better. Which is possible, since in his fantasy he tells her that her profession is
entirely bogus.
Anyway, so he tells her that he thinks she's bad at her job, and what he really needs is love.
You see what you laugh?
And then she brings out the perfect girl for Cage.
But what does he think about her name?
Sharon. Oh, what a beautiful name. It's incredible.
I like poetry, horseback riding, Vivaldi, and long weekends in the country.
Those are exactly the same things that I like.
Yes, he definitely looks like the kind of person who would go horseback riding. But before he goes on his romantic journey, he thinks he should tell the therapist about what he did the previous night.
Well, I did rape someone a couple nights ago. Girl at the office, I just lost control.
It's just a little id release, no use to worry. Just spit it out, Peter.
Well, the fact is I did murder someone last night. I turned into a vampire. It's a long story.
Goodness.
Peter, people get murdered every day in this city. Do you think the world is going to stop? Have a wonderful life together, and I will take care of the cops.
So Cage and the imaginary Sharon head back to his house, ready to start a romance that is destined to last forever.
Sharon.
God damn it! What I just say?
Because there's no way in hell that I would ever marry a loudmouth pig like you. Next, 10 minutes I'm with you, and the shit just starts right up. Get the hell out of here, you fucking pig! Leave me the fuck alone!
Or not. So, after being rejected from 2 imaginary girls in the span of either a few hours or 2 days, depending on that newspaper thing, Cage decides to take a nap. But Alva's brother, after learning about what Cage did to her, comes to his apartment with the intention of doing the same thing that Jim Carrey did to his coworkers. But instead, he settles for stabbing him with a plank of wood. And then we get a monologue from Rachel, and credits. And the final count for all the Cage moments in this movie is 50 Cage moments.
So that was Vampire's Kiss. And was it really that bad? No.
This movie walks the line of being really bad and being brilliant. It's very easy to rip it apart and make fun of it, but it's still good enough to be considered a good movie at the least. It's definitely not perfect. It's got a lot of problems. But some of the symbolism is actually pretty smart. You could interpret this entire movie as Cage's descent into hell. For example, the nightclub is meant to symbolically represent hell, with all the drugs and sex and other sinful things there. And in the therapist scenes, he is high up on the upper level floors of the building, symbolizing him being closer to heaven. But he rejects it. And when he's chasing Alva lower and lower into the building, he's descending far from the heavens and into hell. And from that point, he's beyond saving. Hence, we never see him return to the therapist's office. The only way for him to go is further down. This scene is him crossing the point of no return, symbolically and literally. But what about Cage's acting? It's so over the top and dumb. Well, that's what it's supposed to be. It's meant to be over the top. Like an old silent movie or a dumb B-movie from the 50s, and it's what makes the movie memorable. And if they went with a more toned-down actor, it, yes, may have been better, but it still would have bombed just as hard. And if Cage wasn't there, this movie would have been completely forgotten and lost. People in 1989 weren't ready for something like this. You can clearly see that in the marketing.
He was an ordinary guy.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Looking for an extraordinary love.
I brought this girl up to my place the other night.
It started with a kiss.
Really hot.
A very special kiss.
You wanted her very badly.
Yeah.
I hate interrupted love affairs, don't you?
Yep.
It's affecting his work.
There you are.
It's a horrible, horrible job. And you have to do it.
It's ruining his appetite.
My next appointment with you is Tuesday afternoon.
I'd like to make it sooner.
For Peter Lowe,
Sooner?
that's just love
Love.
in the big city.
Don't laugh.
I'm a professional. I don't laugh.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Nicolas Cage,
The torturers of the damned!
Maria Conchita Alonso,
Shoot. Doing her, I'll fire you. Do you understand? Not the floor, Alba.
and Jennifer Beals.
You're so pathetic.
Vampire's Kiss.
Strange stuff. I'll never do that again.
They had no idea how to sell this to people back then. This movie would have done much better if it had come out today with the internet and such. If you don't believe me, just look at Joker. Now, I will admit, Joker is much better made than Vampire's Kiss, but they are very similar. Both are about a clearly mentally ill man that begins to lose his mind. Both have imaginary girlfriends that are based off of people they have met in real life, and both become so invested in their fantasies that they lose track of what's real and what's fake. And in the end, both fully embrace the insanity. This part wasn't in the script, but I should probably mention that one big difference between the two, though, is that Joker is very serious, while Vampire's Kiss has more of a comical tone. This movie is like a cross between Joker and American Psycho, even though it actually came out years before those.
So, do I recommend Vampire's Kiss? Yeah? Specifically, I recommend you watch it on YouTube because there's a playlist of the whole movie there, instead of tracking down a physical copy, because it's like $100, and it's definitely not that good. Oh no. Oh. My transformation to Nicolas Cage is now complete. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go steal 50 cards and help Spider-Man save the multiverse.
You like jazz?
What was that? Oh no. No. Oh no. Bees. Ah! Not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! They're in my eyes! My eyes! Ah!